Each year, the IMF's World Economic Outlook shapes the global economic narrative, guiding investors, policymakers, and bankers worldwide. It's more than numbers. It's a declaration of who matters in the world economy. Yet, in the October 2025 edition, Eritrea is missing. Next to its name, NA, no data, no explanation. This isn't a mistake, it's a deliberate omission, a blank space that speaks volumes. The IMF, the world's economic scorekeeper, has rendered Eritrea invisible. While neighbors like Ethiopia and Djibouti are analyzed, Eritrea is a void. The omission feels intentional, suggesting a nation too defiant or too unmeasurable for inclusion. For outsiders, it paints Eritrea as a failed state, disconnected from the global system. But the truth is more complex. Eritrea's absence is a standoff between a fiercely independent nation and the global financial order. This is about sovereignty, data, and the politics of economic surveillance. The IMF's blank space is a statement, a fundamental disagreement over how a nation should engage with the world. Eritrea's silence forces us to ask, who gets to write the rules of the global economic game? In a world of shifting power, this omission is not just about numbers, it's about who controls the narrative. Eritrea's invisibility is a challenge to the system itself. The story isn't about irrelevance, it's about resistance, and it demands our attention. To be unlisted by the IMF is to be cast into the shadows of global finance. Without IMF data, Eritrea struggles to attract investment or secure loans. There's no official benchmark for risk. Credit agencies and aid organizations rely on these numbers. Without them, Eritrea is marginalized. The vacuum left by missing data is filled with speculation and rumor, making partnership harder. For Eritrea, this invisibility is a calculated choice, not a misfortune. The government sees IMF data sharing as a tool of external control, not transparency. By withholding statistics, Eritrea asserts its sovereignty, refusing to submit to a system it distrusts. This act of defiance turns invisibility into armor. Eritrea chooses to define its own path, even if it means being a ghost in the global economic outlook. The world speaks the language of data. Eritrea's silence is a statement. It's a declaration of independence, not dysfunction. Invisibility for Eritrea is both shield and strategy. Eritrea's absence from the IMF's ledger is striking given its strategic importance. With over 1,100 kilometers of Red Sea coastline, Eritrea sits on a vital global trade artery. Its ports, Massawa and Assab, are gateways near the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a choke point for world commerce and security. Disruption here would ripple through global supply chains. In a region where global powers compete for influence, Eritrea's location is a major prize. Beyond geography, Eritrea is rich in minerals, gold, copper, zinc, and potash. The Kalulai Potash Project could make Eritrea a key supplier for global agriculture. Its resources are crucial for the green energy transition and food security. Ignoring Eritrea means ignoring a critical piece of the global puzzle. The IMF's silence doesn't erase Eritrea's real-world significance. It only highlights the disconnect between economic reports and strategic reality. Eritrea is central to trade and security, whether or not it appears in the data. Its absence is a reminder. Some nations matter, even when invisible. The standoff centers on the IMF's Article 4 consultation, a yearly economic checkup for member countries. Most nations comply, sharing data in exchange for credibility and access to global finance. Eritrea hasn't participated since 2010, refusing to provide the required statistics. The IMF sees this as non-compliance. Eritrea sees it as defending sovereignty. Without data, the IMF publishes nothing, leaving Eritrea a blank space. For Eritrea, the Article 4 process is intrusive, prioritizing global interests over local needs. Refusing participation is a stand against cycles of debt and dependency. It's a matter of principle, economic self-determination over external oversight. Eritrea's blank space is a defense of its independence. The silence is intentional and deeply political. Eritrea's economy isn't a black box. Other organizations track its modest growth, driven by mining, agriculture, and remittances. The government's core policy is self-reliance, avoiding external debt and financing development from domestic revenues and targeted foreign investment. Eritrea has one of Africa's lowest external debt to GDP ratios. By refusing IMF and World Bank loans, it avoids policy conditions and maintains control. The Nakfa is managed through a fixed exchange rate, insulating the economy from volatility. The state directs investment into infrastructure, aiming to become a regional trade gateway. This slow, methodical approach prioritizes sovereignty over rapid integration. Challenges remain: poverty, inefficiency, and limited capital. But for Eritrea, the price of independence is worth paying. Its model is a rare vision of development, one that values autonomy above all. The IMF often includes countries with unreliable or incomplete data, using estimates to fill gaps. Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon all appear in the outlook, despite instability and missing statistics. Yet Eritrea is left blank, suggesting its exclusion is political, not technical. The key difference: Eritrea refuses to participate in the IMF's surveillance process. The message is clear: cooperate, even imperfectly, and you're included. Defy the system, and you're erased. This double standard raises questions about fairness and the IMF's true motives. Eritrea's self-reliance challenges the business model of global financial institutions. Its exclusion may be about containing an alternative narrative as much as missing data. The blank space is a warning. Non-compliance means invisibility, but it also signals the power of dissent. Eritrea's silence is amplified by the region's geopolitical stakes. The Red Sea is a battleground for global powers. US, China, Russia, Turkey, and Gulf states all seek influence. Eritrea's ports offer strategic access to the Red Sea and Indian Ocean. The country balances relationships across the spectrum, refusing binding alliances. As tensions rise, Eritrea's role in maritime security grows more critical. Its real-world influence far outweighs its absence in IMF reports. Diplomats and strategists see Eritrea as a key player, regardless of economic data. The IMF's blackout highlights the limits of a purely economic lens. Eritrea is on the geopolitical board, its moves watched by the world. In this great game, silence is a strategy. In today's world, data is power, shaping narratives and exerting control. The IMF's authority comes from being the keeper of economic truth. But for many, data demands feel like surveillance, a tool for powerful nations to discipline weaker ones. Policy recommendations often force governments into measures that may not serve their people. Eritrea's refusal to provide data is a conscious act of resistance. By withholding statistics, it denies the IMF the power to define its reality. Silence becomes a shield, protecting policy space and alternative development paths. Eritrea's stance challenges the assumption that transparency is always good. For some, opacity is a necessary defense in a world of power imbalances. The blank space is a political statement. Eritrea will write its own story. Eritrea's empty column in the IMF's report is more than a statistical oddity. It's a parable about sovereignty versus global integration. Eritrea has chosen independence over surveillance, self-determination over conformity. This choice brings isolation and limits access to capital, but also avoids debt traps and preserves control. The sovereignty paradox: protect independence and risk irrelevance, or engage and risk losing autonomy. Eritrea bets that self-reliance will pay off in the long run. Its story questions the universality of the global economic model. In an age of rising nationalism, Eritrea's defiance may foreshadow future trends. The blank space is not an end, but the start of a deeper conversation about the nation-state's future. Eritrea's silence forces us to reconsider who gets to define success in the global economy.